Canada and United States. Here we go again from Perelada. Hello everybody from this incredible Perelada's library. And thanks to the audience for being with us online today. It's a pleasure to share with you a connection with these three very good Festival de Perelada friends. But the most important for us is that despite this ugly pandemic, we can celebrate that we are in good health, all of us. So very welcome to our dear Sondra Rufus. As all of you know, she had to be our Aida this summer. It's a real shame that it couldn't be, but she will be very, very soon. And dear Sondra, thanks a lot for your kind message during the confinement. Thank you very much, and always for your constant support. It is very exciting to meet you all if it is online. Also very kind greetings from Isabel to all of you. And also good morning and very welcome to our dear Rufus and Jorn. Hello.
Hi.
You know well this library. Rufus Van Bright also should have been for a concert in Perelada this summer 2020, and very soon also he will be among us again. Thanks for your love. And thanks especially to Jorn Weisbrot for accepting to moderate this speech between these two great stars. Jorn is the former artistic director of the Toronto's Arts and Creativity Luminato Festival, with whom he had worked for the North American premiere of Rufus Van Bright opera Prima Donna. And last but not least, we would like to thank the audience for joining us online today. Thank you very much. You know that for us, streaming is absolutely new. And thanks for being here in this connection. Why this liaison? Two great artists, Sondra and Rufus, two great friends with a lot of common experience, and also two great friends of the Festival de Perelada. And most importantly, two opera lovers. You will agree with me that Sondra, as a first soprano, is a real prima donna on stage, always. But in real life, we could say she's quite the opposite. And Prima Donna is the title of Rufus' first opera. Therefore, you can agree that it is a good, very good pretext. Prima Donna, Rufus Van Bright.
There it is.
That it is a very good pretext to name today's inspiring speech and reunion. Jorn, the floor is yours. Thank you very much from Perelada.
Thank you so much, Oriol, and happy birthday again.
Birthday.
Thank you. Yes.
Happy birthday.
We could all try to sing happy birthday in harmony, but I think there's probably a delay in our Zoom conversation because Sondra is in Ontario, north of Toronto, and Rufus and I, we are in beautiful Mendocino in northern California. Sondra.
And we're here with Puccini.
Yes, we are here with Puccini.
Puccini.
The great composer Puccini.
Yeah.
Say hi. So, Sondra, we're talking about prima donnas, or the phenomenon of prima donna, and obviously we'll talk about Rufus's opera as well. And obviously there are always a lot of cliches around what a prima donna is. Oriol just said you are a prima donna, so can you just give me a definition, your definition of what a prima donna actually is? Let's hear it from a prima donna.
There we go. I'm going to stay there.
There.
You muted me. Oh,
Yes. Oh God.
I know.
That's not a prima donna move to be
Don't-
muted.
Don't mute us a prima donna, right?
No, exactly.
Prima donna, you know, historically it's had a negative context to it in that, oh, she's such a prima donna. But literally it means the first lady of the opera. It means the lead, the female lead of the opera. And somehow that turned into not a positive, which you were so talented and fortunate enough to be the lead of the opera, into a negative thing. Oh, she's a prima donna, which probably stemmed from not me, of course, but a lot of sopranos notoriously back in the ages were maybe a bit difficult to work with, demanding. And so that became negative instead of positive because the first lady always demanded this or that, you know, or the conductor got into arguments or fights with her colleagues. But that literally is what a prima donna is. Now, over the ages, of course, it's a lot different. And, you know, I don't even think people use that much anymore in the operatic context. They just use it in the music world or in the common world saying, oh, she's a prima donna, or, oh, she's such a diva.
Yeah.
That's in my
That's
opinion.
interesting. I mean, and maybe we'll talk about that later a little bit, that maybe, you know, there's been a shift happening. And obviously the word prima donna was, as you said, it was the first woman in an opera, and maybe opera was a more central art form at the time when also this was really coined, this term. Rufus, well, how would you describe a prima donna?
Well, I have to say, I've thought a lot about this word over the years. And when I first really kind of dove into that subject was when I was, and it was on hearing prima donna spoken that the whole opera prima donna came to me. And I was watching a very famous interview with Maria Callas and Lord Harwood from the 70s, and there was a moment where Maria Callas said, you know, that is what it is to be the prima donna. You are the first woman. And somehow when she said that, I just, you know, the vision of the opera came to me. Anyways, and then I read, you know, there's a book called Prima Donna about the history of prima donnas, and I kind of did a lot of research in that world, and eventually my take was that actually prima donna, there was nothing negative about being a prima donna in the sense that, you know, when you look at what these women had to do,
right,
what they were up against, you know, the kind of the idea of a woman actually breaking out of like whatever situation she was in and becoming a star, you know, and demanding what she wants and kind of garnering some power, you know, it's more of a, you know, the prima donna for me became a very honorable, very, you know, fascinating and powerful, you know, female, you know, movement in the history of the world. And so I think with my opera prima donna and my feeling personally towards it is that it should be something that's almost like reclaimed as a word, and that you know the derogatory sense of it is actually quite sexist in the sense like, here's a woman who's just, you know, really, you know, is fighting for what she believes in artistically, and there's something, you know, negative about that, you know, whereas I mean we all know how tenors can be too, you know. You know, but there's no kind of derogatory word for like the tenor, you know, of that, you know, weight.
Is there, Sondra, there, I mean,
so I'm pro prima donna.
In opera, is there primo uomo? Does that sort of concept exist, or has it existed as much as a prima donna?
I would say, well, in my opinion, being a prima donna, I would say that absolutely. I find that, okay, what we do is difficult. Imagine, you know, singing all these high notes and the pressure of us as singers to have them perfect every time. Sopranos and tenors, we don't sing where we speak, which is a very interesting. So there is always that that fear, that insecurity. And insecurity then manifests itself as oftentimes becoming demanding or particular or nervous or all of that. And that's where that negative connotation, I think, came from that. And I also find that tenors, yes, the primo uomo, they're just as nervous sometimes, because if you don't hit that high note, every time, because you're only good, as Rufus knows, you're only as good as your last performance. So people call it being difficult, people call it being stubborn, but actually it's us being very meticulous and wanting every note that we sing to be exactly correct. That said, I think, yes, it has become a bit archaic. Opera also, it has been taken over in modern days, I think, more by pop music. And I think the term prima donna now, you would use that more in the modern day with a pop singer, someone like Beyonce, someone
that's true.
People like that,
That's
because
true.
their demands are so great now. And I think it's just.
But I think it is interesting. It is interesting that the term primo uomo, while it does exist, I think, and in 18th century writings or 19th century writings about, opera, it does exist as a sort of category for a particular singer and for a particular position within an opera. But it really is prima donna that has survived and that has become this really powerful accumulation of meaning and word, et cetera, and even the tenor today, who's difficult, you would call him a prima donna and not a primo uomo, right? But what I find interesting about that, in a way, and I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think that opera is really the quintessential female art form. It is an art form where the woman and the female role is really at the center of, at the very center of the art form. It's the most crucial part of the entire work of art, which is not the case in theater, which is not the case, in so many other art forms. But opera is really a quintessential female art form in a way. And I'm wondering what you, Sondra, and you, Rufus, sort of, whether you share that sort of sentiment, or whether, or not.
What do you think, Rufus?
Yeah, what's my take on it is that, essentially opera is, and I know you and I have discussed this before, where essentially, devoid of all of the kind of sexism and, male dominated world that we have and all of that stuff. Opera is just technically, kind of scientifically works the best when a female voice sings over an orchestra. Like, there's just something about the sonics of that you can't sort of question. Certainly a tenor can do it too, and a baritone, but really when a soprano can glide over this 100 players, there's this scientific thing that happens. And so like it for me, it's always been this proof that of the power of women, and and how undeniably you have to succumb to it eventually, no matter how hard you try. And God knows society has tried, and so opera for me is a great emblem of that, and the prima donna is within that realm.
I think the female, for me, it's the fragility and the vulnerability of the female, not just the female voice, but the female being that is so, and the passionate aspect of the female being that makes opera so accessible and so vulnerable for the public, because people can relate to that. People can relate to all of these emotions, and that's what has kept opera so prevalent for all these years, is because of that fragility, that vulnerability, not just in the female voice, but in the female psyche. And I think even if you are doing a lesbian opera or, you know, a gay opera, there is still one character, I feel, that will be more feminine in the characterization, and one will be more masculine. I think it's just natural with all of my friends that are like that. And I'm sure in Hadrian, did you have one character that you in your mind was more feminine and in your mind was more masculine?
Yeah, well, I mean, in my opera Hadrian, I kind of flipped it in the sense that that the more masculine character, Hadrian, the emperor, who, you know, which is played by Thomas Hampson, his boyfriend Antinous, who was younger and more, you know, delicate and more feminine, was actually the tables were turned when they were in bed, and the feminine character became the more masculine one. That's sort
dominant.
Of the dominant, shall we say, in the you know, gay sex act. So I kind of played with that a bit, because it was actually a chance for the masculine character Hadrian to become more feminine in the end, and not, you know, be so manly and powerful.
Don't you find relationships, there's always that chemistry? And
no, totally. I mean, what's interesting, it's funny though, because I did want to bring up one thing, which is, because we were also with our dog Puccini, and the fact that we were also talking about Turandot and Madame Butterfly, and you know, and I find that's a fascinating subject in terms of the female operas from those operas, who, you know, there is a real debate, you know, from people who find them incredibly sexist, incredibly kind of masochistic and towards women. You know, if you look at all the tortured characters and how they die, but then there's this strange thing where those arias and that music coming out of those characters is the most emotional and the most kind of heart-wrenching. And I'm curious about what, like with Puccini's characters, how you reckon with that, with the prima donna kind of question, and, you know, and how you deal with that. I'm curious.
Diversity of it all. Yeah, it's
well, there's the diversity, and also but like the tortured.
I think what Rufus is, you know, I mean, I think a lot of composers have very, you know, Puccini has a very sort of set image of the female role, right? I mean, it's sort of, I mean, you have Turandot, who's obviously, you know, I mean, she's sort of this manslaughtering or this ice cold person, but you have Liu, who's sort of the suffering. You have Madame Butterfly, who's suffering, who basically who gets sacrificed in a way at the end. So there's sort of this ambiguity in Puccini's work between the woman who's the sufferer, who gets sacrificed, and then this super strong character. In Wagner's operas, you know, it's a very similar. I mean, Wagner's women's roles are all the same. They all basically get sacrificed. Well, they're very strong, that's true, but they all basically sacrifice themselves to redeem, you know, to set the male character free. You know, Senta dies so that the Flying Dutchman can sort of be relieved of his curse. Brunhilde dies as well at the end of the opera. You know, she sort of sacrifices herself too. And it's, I would be curious how it is, you know, as Rufus said, for, you know, you to sort of deal with these characters and what you feel sort of as a, you know, powerful woman of the 21st century.
But I feel especially with Puccini, though, because it's I do feel such, you know,
the personal aspect of it, and that is also a character like Maddalena in Andrea Chenier, but that's the charisma, the reality, because I think in real life, women, especially nowadays, are not these wilting flowers. Oh, yes, honey, whatever you want, you know? And I think Puccini was one of the first composers to really touch on that women have this duality. And women do have a masculine side as well as a feminine side. And I think when Verismo opera started, that's what really attracted the people, because those days of being submissive, the women being submissive and staying at home and cooking for the husband, those days were gone. And we were moving into this new revolutionary era where, wow, gosh, women can actually do something. And that's, Puccini picked up on that. And that's why I think his operas really touch the heart and have lasted so long, because all of those prima donnas are strong women. And
yeah, no, they're all strong women, but they're all very brutally murdered at the end. I mean, there's a, you know, there's I don't know if you know the story about Puccini, where he when he got very sick at the end of his life, he had this strange kind of throat cancer, and they had this kind of archaic treatment back in those days, and they put these 7 needles in his throat, and he was convinced that it was the 7 heroines that he had. You know, there was Liu and Cho San, and if you count it, there's seven women who kind of brutally died. So it's that battle. But I feel like with the bringing it back to the prima donna subject, I mean, it is this. There is this battle in opera with the prima donna, in the sense, like, and prima donna is the perfect expression, because it can mean like the greatest thing and it can mean the worst thing, you know, and just
that's
and there's
right. That's and that's why I think that term has survived for so long, because women are both hard and soft, you know, whereas men sometimes, I live with one, so I can say men tend to be more, or historically they say men are supposed to be the breadwinner, you know, they're supposed to be the strong men. But, you know, they have that duality too, and that's why I think
they too. But that's why there's gay people, so they can be soft. They can be soft.
And that's why you wrote Hadrian too, to show that duality of men as well. And how about your prima donna? How would you describe her?
My character. Well, first of all, for anybody who's interested, there is actually a great production being mounted presently in Sweden, in Stockholm, which is premiering at the Royal Opera House on September 26th. They're doing 13 performances, so that'll be all up until February. So anyone in Europe, you can go see my opera in Stockholm.
There's a recording DVD of this as well.
And there's a great recording of the opera on Deutsche Grammophon, which with Janice Kelly singing prima donna. So that's available. But with that character, I mean, I really wanted her to be this kind of, one of the things about the prima donna, which I think is a good subject to bring up, is also this idea of a woman who is really controlled by her voice, you know, in the sense that, you know, she builds her entire universe around her artistry and her physical ability. And then there's a point where she just doesn't have the voice that she used to have, and she has to make a really fundamental decision. A lot of it kind of stems from the concept of Maria Callas, who, you know, arguably maybe at some point should have just stopped, you know, I mean, just for her own mental health, you know, but she couldn't, you know, she was so centered around that. And so I think for me, with the prima donna, the character in my opera, Régine Saint-Laurent, she is someone who, is just coming to terms with just like the limits of her body. And it's interesting because at the time, you know, my mother, Kate McGarrigle, was very sick, and she did get to see the opera, which was great when it premiered. But then she passed away not long afterwards. And it is this thing of just just coming to terms with, you know, and in the opera, I think like the voice kind of, the losing of her voice also became like the losing of my mother's life. But it was this, so it's that very heavy subject, which, tell me about your experience with that. Or
I exactly, that's sort of what I wanted to ask too. I mean, tell us about your relationship with your voice. How is it to have it with you all the time? You can never put it away, and you are a master, but you are maybe also a slave.
Well, you are, you know, there's Cilea, there's a very famous aria from Adriana Lecouve called Io son l'umile ancella, and I'm the humble servant, right, for my voice. And that's it. I mean, I think of my voice, it's funny, okay? I have dual personalities. I guess maybe that's that hard and soft that we talked about.
Yeah.
But I have to compartmentalize different aspects of my life. So when I'm on stage, I am Sandy Singer, and I am using what I call the voice, that it is the voice. But Sondra,
That's your name, Sandy Singer.
Yeah.
Sandy Singer. I also have my old here, right there it is. Also D Diva. That's my old California life.
Amazing.
Because my middle name.
That's amazing.
Like D is my middle name. So it's either Sandy Singer or D Diva, when I'm on stage, and it is the voice that is performing. But off stage, I'm Sondra Rufus or Sondra Lear, as people know. But it is truly, you have to, I feel, separate the two. And we've talked about this because there are intense pressures when you are on stage. And if you're on stage thinking about your shopping list and your mother that's in a nursing home and all of that, you can't give 100% to being that prima donna, to being that woman on stage, or becoming the character. And it shows, I feel, in the characterization. And I think if you don't give 100%, the audience will feel it. And that's how I have coped all of my life with my job. And I feel it's a healthy way to do that. And it allows me in some ways to be more free on stage, because Sandy Singer is a little more risk-taking than Sondra Rufus. And
amazing. I heard though, there was I heard an interview once with Gabriele Schnaut, who was a great German Wagnerian soprano, and I was a huge fan of hers and wrote her, I think I told you, I wrote her a 20-page love letter once. And I heard an interview with her and someone, and after she did Götterdämmerung, and she was, and the interviewer asked her, like, this was, your final address, it was incredible, it was so moving. What were you thinking about? And she said, like, I was thinking about my first beer in the canteen after the performance. So I guess every singer copes with it in a different kind of way too. But Sondra, go ahead.
No, I honestly think. Go. You go.
No. Say what you were going to say.
No, I was just going to add on. Go, do it, please. When did
okay. Well, I'm curious. When did you discover your voice, and when did you discover that you have that in you? And when did you discover Sandy Singer? And when did you become Sandy Singer? When did you become that prima donna for the first time? When did you know, like, okay, I got it. I'm there. This is it.
No one's ever asked me that. You're a good one. You can. I discovered my voice at a very early age, I think, singing along with Karen Carpenter.
Okay.
My mom bought me a record player, and the first record she got me was Karen Carpenter, and we're talking 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I started singing along, and then I started at around 8 harmonizing just naturally. And that's when mom went, ding, I think this girl has something, but has been given a talent, and, God-given talent. And I think that's what we as artists have, our God-given talent. So then church choir, all of that, started taking lessons at 11. But I don't think Sandy Singer really came out until I was like 30. When I felt in my soul that I made it, that I was there. And that was kind of around the time that I sang Cyrano de Bergerac at the Metropolitan Opera with Placido Domingo.
Oh, right. I remember that.
And that was
go.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Finish your thought.
And that was kind of like that big aha moment, because all of my life I had set goals and, okay, blah, 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 I'm going to do this by then. And I wanted to sing a lead role at the Metropolitan Opera by the time I was 30. And on my 30th birthday, Placido Domingo sang Happy Birthday to Me at the Met, the first day of rehearsal.
Oh my God. Amazing.
Okay.
That is beautiful.
Just under the wire.
Goosebumps. I just had a little goosebumps. Amazing.
Yeah.
Rufus,
what I wanted to say, and this also goes back to the idea of the prima donna in the sense, is that I'm going through an interesting experience now where you know, I started singing when I was 6 or 5 or 6, you know, even professionally. I mean, my mother and father were professional musicians. So I started, and then I sang all through my 20s and made records and stuff. But I think because of my love for opera and my kind of dedication to that concept, it is actually only now in my 40s as a singer that I really feel in control of my powers, you know, and it started, you know, and that is the trajectory, you know, for opera singers. It's really in your 30s and 40s and even 50s when the big roles are capable of happening. And what's funny about that, though, with the prima donna idea, is that I think another aspect that we have to bring into it is the question of age, in the sense that, you know, historically prima donnas are more, you know, on the older side of the spectrum, and, you know, they're not the ingenues, they're not the this or that, and I think there's also something about a woman aging that is you know, kind of scary to the world sometimes, or, you know, and so it's sort of, I'm curious about the age thing, you know, and how in opera it's really in your 30s, 40s, and 50s when that's when you hit your height, you know, and it's like
yeah,
It is.
it's not a juvenile art form,
No.
opera, like pop music is these days, right?
Yes.
Yeah, nowadays anybody can go out and record, you know, a pop thing and say, hey, I'm the newest, latest, and greatest. But you have to have that gravitas. I think, like what you said, Rufus, with your new album that just came out, there is a total, in my opinion, having heard all your other albums, there is a sense of maturity, a sense of gravitas, a sense of you knowing who you are as a singer, as a person, and it comes across, and that's only from experience. And opera is the same thing. You have to know how to sing. I mean, okay, this is not a short little sing, right?
No. Yeah.
As a singer, you have to know how to pace yourself, and that only comes from going out there and doing it. And a lot of these younger singers say, yeah, I can go and do it, and then in 5 or 10 years, you never hear their name again. So,
and also like their personal lives. I mean, you have to have the experiences in life. You have to have known death. You have to have known heartache. You have to have known illness. You know, and then when you then approach, tell me about that. Like now, just being in that space.
I was very sophomore when I was younger, thinking, oh yeah, I'm ready to sing Tosca at 21. Okay.
Yeah.
Not having had a serious relationship, a love relationship, you know, nothing like that, not knowing that heartbreak, not knowing losing someone like that. So I understand now all of those experiences lead to every point in your life, to this prima donna aging. And aging is a horrible thing for women, because there are so many unknowns. Menopause for women is, men don't go through that, and women, it's something that we don't have control over, and how it can ravage the body and change the body and the voice slowly or very quickly for women. I mean, look at some very famous singers, that Julie Andrews, for instance. I mean, she had the will, but, you know, got older and the voice changed. And so aging, and also we live in a society that is very, very concerned about looks. I mean, okay, now 50 is the new 40, but the voice still does not respond. I'm 51 now, and my voice does not respond the same way it did at 40 as it did at 30. And it's something that you have to either choose to continue working on, or slowly segue out. And, you know, the problem is there is this one factor that we don't discuss often, and that is called ego. And we all have it. There's a healthy ego, and then there's an unhealthy ego. And prima donnas, the term prima donna, that is more an unhealthy ego. And they're not willing to let go of the applause, of the accolades, of their moment in the spotlight. And if you've lived a very long time in that spotlight, I can't even imagine what it's like to give it up. And How many pop singers?
But I guess, Sondra, you have a little bit of, I mean, and both of you, Rufus and Sondra, you have a little bit of a forced experience in that department at the moment, because, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, as you say, prima donna is nothing without an audience, maybe, I don't know, but both of you were forced to stop performing for the last 3 months with, you know, COVID-19. So how have you been dealing with that? And have you, I mean, we talked about this before at some point, you know, I think it's been a time for you to rethink really what your lifestyle from before, and to think, I mean, or to at least think about it. Can you share some of those thoughts?
I mean, how's the prima donna doing on lockdown?
Yes, exactly.
Wait, if I hear that word pivot one more time, I really am going to buy again.
Oh God. Yeah, God.
Well, I mean, listen,
for me, yeah. Or well,
I was going to say you
go first,
had
or
quarantines.
why don't I go first, and then,
Okay,
and then you
Rufus,
go,
go
because
first.
you are I defer to you in the sense you are the prima donna, and I mean that in a positive, wonderful sense. I love prima donna, so that's me. But from my aspect as a singer who's had to stop singing for several months and cancel many shows.
One of them in Peralada. And
I was going to play the Teatro Real a few weeks ago. You know, that was all set up. But anyways, is that I don't know. I feel that it's a strange double-edged sword, where actually in this day and age, with so much, you know, travel and, you know, demand for product, and, you know, just feeding the beast, and such little time, it's been fantastic for my voice in terms of just to stop and rest it for a while, and so forth. But on the other hand, I do, and I'm fortunate because I'm also a composer, so I can sort of shift into that composer mode. And I've been working a lot actually on some other pieces, so I'm lucky in that sense. But I will say that is kind of tinged with these real kind of horrific moments of, you know, will I ever sing again in front of an audience, and will I, you know, be able to lose myself as I can, you know, with my voice at times. I mean, we did a live stream recently, you know, socially distanced with my band from Los Angeles, and I spent, you know, 2 or 3 days rehearsing with them and singing, and then ultimately performing. And it was such a double-edged sword, because on one hand it was so great, and it reminded me that of just like the heights that I can escape to, you know, with my voice, and kind of disappear into, and the emotions that I can, you know, juggle and really can come to terms with. And then just the idea that, oh my God, I can't do this, you know, regularly for a while. And so it's, I think it's harder than I care to admit. But I can go back to being a composer, but as a singer, I'm just curious what that must be like for you.
Well, you know,
I'm curious.
You remember that duality that I talked about in opera? I think that this pandemic has brought out that duality in our profession and in our personalities. Because truly, right now, I feel we are living the utter heights and the utter lows in our profession, and there doesn't seem to be much there in the middle, at least for me right now, and a lot of the people that we've been talking to. It's extremes, and that's what opera and music really, I feel, is about, is the extreme emotions, and that's what people relate to. So what did I do? I didn't sing for a good 3 months, 2.5, 3 months, because when I'm happy, I sing best. As you know, I'm sure you're the same, Rufus. When you're happy, the best product, you create the best product. I was burnt out from a very trying and taxing 2019. What 2020 was going to be like, but I needed this time as well. And my voice has thanked me greatly for taking this rest, because I feel, touch wood, that I am singing better now than ever. And I have started singing again the past month. But we did that lovely word pivot And my best friend Carrie Alcama and I have created a YouTube channel called The Screaming Divas, where you can actually see an interview that we did with Sondra Rufus too.
Yes.
And just
that was a lot of fun.
It was, you know, it's great to just see the other side, not the singer side, but the real, the raw and the real side of other people, and to see that we all put our pants on the same way. And I have a feeling that oftentimes public puts us up on a pedestal, that we are in a different class than them, or we're different in a way, but honestly, we have the same feelings and emotions as all of you out there. And it's been really a leveling experience for me, in that I had to do a lot of soul searching and think, if I never sing again, as you said, Rufus, if I never sing again, can I deal with that? Am I okay with that? And B, do I want to continue singing? Do I love this so much? Is it something that I want to keep doing? And I went inward for quite a while and did all of this looking into my soul, because I'm 51, and you know, how much longer am I singing? But the answer that I came out with,
I was gonna say, like, give us the answer to your two questions.
Yes, the answer is yes, I want to keep singing, and more than ever.
That's great.
It renewed my love.
Bravo.
Passion.
And the second question though was, would you be okay if you if you couldn't sing anymore? What is that answer?
No.
Okay.
And I would have to continue doing music in some manner, shape, form.
Yes. Yeah.
Voice, giving master classes, artistic, or even doing the Screaming Divas, because that's still artistic and singing in a way. But I did realize that.
And,
well,
I'm
sure.
And also one thing I have to say, I'm hoping, I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm hoping again. Want to say that twice, that you know, when we do return to sing, you know, there is going to be an incredible wave of emotion, and just from so many ends of the spectrum, and yeah, so I mean, it'll be exciting, I think, actually, to go back.
We sort of have to wrap it up. We're running out of time, but I want to ask both of you one sort of final question, or you know, because and Rufus talked about, you know, when we do come back. So Sondra and Rufus, talk a little bit about the future, your future plans, what is coming up. Sondra mentioned some exciting things in Spain. Obviously, there's next year's Peralada Festival, but talk a little bit about, you know, what are the things actually that are happening, because we all know Europe is much further than the United States in terms of handling the crisis. You know, thanks to great leadership there. Theaters are starting to open again. Opera houses in Germany have had performances already, again, in different kind of shapes or forms. But Sondra, talk a little bit about what is your future sort of look like at the moment, and then I'll ask Rufus the same, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, I am coming to Barcelona. I am coming to Spain very soon for 3 separate concerts. The first will be in La Coruña, Spain, on September 5th, I'm thinking, or 5th or the 3rd. Check on the internet. And that is a gala concert. Then I am singing live.
With audience. With audience.
Socially distanced, but still with piano.
Okay.
So we're still not with orchestra, but we're making babies.
Okay.
And then I have September 26th, live from the HD, from the Metropolitan Opera. We are singing, Piotr Beczala and myself are doing a duet concert with piano as well, in a place to be disclosed very soon in Barcelona. And then the 20th.
Wow, that sounds exciting.
We're doing a duet recital here. I'm going to say this is a drawing of the Liceo that I was given. We are doing a duet recital on the 27th of September at the Liceo in Barcelona. So that's it, all with piano still, but all with public, which is moving in the right direction. I'm looking forward to the moment that we actually can add orchestra to it. And you, Rufus?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, it's what's funny, and this is an interesting predicament, is that, you know, I've loved opera since I was 13 years old, and I did, over the last few years, you know, have the opportunity to compose prima donna and Hadrian, and really work in that world a lot. But it was always this concept of sort of, you know, not so much a side project, because it isn't that, but it's like a passion project, you know, that was sort of separated from my pop world, from the pop world for me. But what's ironic is that actually I have, you know, all my pop shows have been or I shouldn't say canceled, they've been postponed,
yes,
to 2021, 2021, you know, and that is, you know, that's still so up in the air in terms of, you know, just the way the world is, and how much it takes to do that. But my opera work is actually moving faster than my pop work, in the sense, you know, they're doing, as I said before, they're doing Prima Donna in Stockholm, which is premiering on the 26th of September. So we'll both be working that night in Europe. And then also I have some other pieces that have been commissioned. I don't know if I can talk about.
Not yet.
Not really. But I have some major pieces that have been commissioned that I was so worried about kind of carving out time to do in between pop tours. And now, you know, the runway is just completely open. So I can actually sit down and write a lot of these orchestral pieces. And then there's, you know,
and your new album, Unfollow the Rules.
I have a new album out, Unfollow the Rules. But also, you know, I mean, working with Oriel and Perlotta, you know, they're very, I feel like, what I'm trying to say is that I feel like, in a strange way, opera, maybe because it has been so under the gun for so many years and so desperate anyways, like they are actually more proactive in terms of trying to survive this, because the opera world has been trying to survive for so long under such difficult circumstances. So it's an odd kind of really positive message for the opera world, that, you know, you know, that we're still here, and we you know, so
and
it's a little bit the cliche.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
think we're going to see some amazing artistic liaisons happening in the following year. I think the music making that the audiences are going to see in the next coming years, it's going to be mind-blowing. I really do. I think all of the artistic juices have been festering with us for these past few months. And I think the artists have grown so much with this, and we're going to see some great products coming out from all.
Wow. Sondra, I think I actually wholeheartedly agree with you.
And can we also say, Sarah, one thing about great audiences? I mean, audiences are going to have to make a really fundamental choice. Like, am I going to go see this and maybe get sick, you know? And they're going to have to really, and so when they're there watching us, it's a sacrifice for them, and it's, you know, and they're going to be, you know, there's going to be a real exchange of, there's going to have to be a real exchange.
Well, opera has always been a life and death art form, obviously. And I think, you know, it's wonderful to hear, Sondra, your thought, your passionate statement that you think there's going to be some really exciting things happening. And I think that's a beautiful way to end. We're all looking forward to what this will be. And I want to thank Rufus, my husband, and Sondra so much for participating in this conversation and for letting me, you know, just push some little buttons for them to really talk. And thank you so much to Oriol and Laia and the whole Perlotta Festival. We cannot wait to come back. We cannot wait to see you all in person. And thanks for everyone who tuned in today to listen to this. Keep coming. And, you know, there's nothing greater than the live experience. And have a wonderful day and week and month to come. Thank you so much.
We miss all of you.
Sending love. We miss all of you.
Bye-bye.
Sending health and love. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.